Sunday night, recapping week 3. Holy cow, the Dolphins. I love the Dolphins. I love Mike McDaniel. I just love everything about it. 70 points. That was awesome. And if the Chiefs wanted to, they probably could have matched it. What do you think the optimal lineup is tonight, guys? Quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, flex, tight end. Optimal lineup.
Well, I know who the running backs are. They're both on the Dolphins.
Uh-huh.
And Keenan Allen is going to be one of the receivers.
Uh-huh.
I bet Tua and Tyreek are in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
4 Dolphins in our optimal lineup. Who's our
4 Dolphins?
The Durham Smythe.
Sam Laporta.
Sam Laporta. And then the tough one here. Who's our flex? Who's our PPR flex?
Oh, it's an easy one. Ken Walker.
Yeah, it wasn't that much ahead of Justin Jefferson, but it is Ken Walker. Yeah, we got Tua, A-Chain, Mostert, Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, Sam Laporta, Ken Walker. By my count, they combined for non-decimal 259 points with just those 7 players. Really, just a big week for some of these guys.
I think I have a correction.
What do we got?
Thielen? Adam Thielen, 31.5 PPR fantasy points.
Ooh.
I scored both Tyreek and Ken Walker.
That puts him at wide receiver 2. Sorry, what I'm looking at is not updated. That last touchdown there from Thielen. And Ken Walker's out, and Tyreek Hill's our flex. So that gives us 262 points or something like that. Unbelievable. All right, I got some outlandish statements. I got 3 of them that I want to throw at you, and I want to see. And I don't believe them necessarily, but I'm just gonna throw them out because I kind of believe the first one. I can't believe I'm saying it. Ready? Outlandish. Raheem Mostert was actually a loser today with 45 fantasy points.
I mean, how bad does Jamie feel? Your start of the week isn't even the best running back on his own team.
What a call. I almost texted him early when A-Chain got it. I was like, are you kidding me? And I didn't. Thank goodness.
Oh, you have no idea. So when Jamie watches the 1:00 games downstairs because he's got some HQ duties. We've got 2 floors to our office. The studios are downstairs. I watch upstairs. I can hear him from the first floor to the second floor yelling boom each time Raheem Mostert scored a touchdown today. And he was watching the game on the live feed. We were watching on a delay. So each time I heard him yell boom, and I looked at the TV, and the Dolphins were about to run a play. And I told everybody in the room, hey, this looks like a Raheem Mostert touchdown here, guys. What do you think? And sure enough, he did it. It made me look like a genius because I could hear him say boom. This is what the Dolphins offense is, though. They like to use multiple running backs from game to game to game, and there won't be one guy that like dominates the playing time. And I'm assuming you're saying that Mostert was a loser because A-Chain looked better?
No, because the first 2 weeks, it was all Mostert, pretty much all Mostert. A-Chain was awesome. I'm not saying that Mostert's off the field, but this is a committee. And Jeff Wilson hasn't even factored in yet, and I don't know when
he's not gonna.
Well, right, at this point. When they traded for him, he immediately had 50% of the snaps. It was pretty surprising last year. I'm just saying, Mostert has gone from alpha to committee, even though he had an amazing game.
63% of the snaps with Tua. So that's still a pretty good lead on A-Chain. But he had a great game, man. He looked outstanding. Right. And also, the Broncos' run defense. It's the whole basis why we all had Mostert ranked where we had him ranked. They're terrible.
Wait, do you agree, though? Do you think Mostert's a loser?
No. No. As long as he's healthy, you're starting him.
I mean, A-Chain was a winner, but next week's going to be so interesting because by my math, the Washington Commanders scored 35 points against this Denver Broncos defense and then scored 3 the next week against the Bills. I think that means the Dolphins are going to score 6 points next week.
All right, next outlandish statement. I don't really know. I might believe it. Justin Fields is actually a great buy low.
I need to go back and look at that week 4 game last year. Didn't he? Am I crazy? Heath will have a better memory of this than I will. Did he have a good second half in that game? And that's what kind of spawned him breaking out over the majority of the season?
I don't know.
You don't know? You don't remember either?
I've never heard a broadcast question a coaching staff like the broadcast in that Chiefs-Bears game, just repeatedly calling them out for not having designed Justin Fields runs.
Yeah.
And they didn't early in this game either. Yeah. I think you're probably right, Adam.
This is not an opinion. This is just a statement.
Well,
I mean,
but I think you're going to see Fields dropped in a bunch of leagues. People are going to see it's a repeat of last year, at least to start.
I think the fact that they're playing the Broncos next week might prevent that.
Maybe, but I think some people are going to spike cut them. They're not going to look ahead. The fact that they're playing Denver next week. That is a good matchup. There's a bunch of things the Bears should do in that game that'll keep them competitive. I don't know if they're going to do it. I have no confidence in this offense getting their act together at this point.
All right, last outlandish statement. If we're drafting again today, Ken Walker is a first-round pick.
It's either first or second.
I think it's second because I don't think he's a top 4 running back, and I don't think you'd see more than 4 running backs taken in the first round with the way they've fallen apart.
He's still not playing on 3rd and 4th downs, but I think it's the 3rd week in a row he's had the edge in inside the 10. There might have been one week in there where they barely were near the 10, inside the 10.
Did you see Zach Charbonnet truck?
Oh,
I don't even know who it was. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh,
They
yeah.
have 2 very good running backs.
They do.
They do. And
Walker would be a second rounder, but maybe like 15th overall, 16th overall, like where you were drafting Derrick Henry.
Yeah, we throw league winner around a lot for these backup running backs, but Charbonnet might be number 1. I mean, if there were an
as a league winner.
I mean, as the best, who's the best handcuff? Am I missing one? I think it'd be Charbonnet.
I guess A-Chain doesn't count anymore.
No, not really. I mean, like just a pure handcuff. Anyway, if Charbonnet is available, I think he's 73% rostered. Make sure you get him, even though you're not getting much from him. He's worth stashing. All right, biggest winner and biggest loser. I mean, I just put the Dolphins as the biggest winner. I don't know if you guys want to talk about this a little bit more, but Dave, I'll give it to you. Who's the biggest winner today?
Do you want to talk about the Dolphins, or do you want to talk about who I think the biggest winner is for fantasy?
Your biggest winner.
Okay, I think it's Sam Laporta, who came into this week with 11 targets, exited this week with 22 targets. Just absolutely a big part of what the Lions decided to do to attack the Falcons, and he's been effective now. 3 straight games. Week 1, not so great, 8 PPR points. Week 2, 11 PPR points. I think fantasy managers love that. This week, 8 catches, 84 yards, a touchdown, kind of a broken play touchdown for 45 yards. But he's finally emerged. We finally have a tight end that we can look at and say, okay, this dude's going to get volume every single week. And I don't know if he's going to get short yardage touchdowns like Hunter Henry got in week 1 and week 2, but he's going to be involved in this offense, and he's good and much more of a pass catcher than a blocker. So I think that he's absolutely a winner, and you can stop asking questions about Sam Laporta.
Heath, who's your biggest winner?
Well, I think we can talk about the Dolphins because I think it's probably Devon A-Chain going from 57% rostered to 50 fantasy points, or however many he scored, depending on your scoring system. I mean, he looks really, really good, and it's not hard to imagine him getting 15 touches in an offense that has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle spreading the field, and just like he might average 6 yards a carry and 9 yards a catch. Now he might get hurt too. I think that's a genuine concern. I'm not sure that he could be a workhorse running back, but man, his explosiveness fits perfectly in this system. And I don't see how he doesn't have double-digit touches next week.
Incredible performance from Devon A-Chain. 18 carries, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches, 30 yards, 2 touchdowns. Slippery. He just could not be touched. It was really, really impressive. All right. How about our biggest loser? Heath, what do you got?
Oh, man. I had a lot easier time finding winners than I did losers today, which I thought was nice.
Not me.
But I think it has to be A.J. Dillon. Like, it was so bad. And this is a dynasty and a redraft thing. We thought A.J. Dillon was maybe the league-winning handcuff who actually has a little bit of value even when Aaron Jones is healthy. There was talk in the middle of last year about A.J. Dillon becoming the best back in the Packers backfield, and he looks terrible. And I just don't even know if he ever is a starting running. I think he's probably not ever a starting running back in the NFL.
You want the indictment?
Yeah, Patrick Taylor.
Patrick Taylor played all 6 of the Packers snaps inside the 10 today. Dillon had none.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw, but on the broadcast, they showed Aaron Jones running before the game. He looked like a guy who's coming back next week. So hopefully
Good. I hope
we don't have to worry about this anymore.
If Aaron Jones comes back next week, do I need to hold on to AJ Dillon?
No, I don't think so.
You can drop Dillon.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to think. I
know.
I didn't think that was in the realm of possibility.
You're right. It's pretty shocking. All right, who's your biggest loser, Dave? The guy who is full of losers today, apparently.
The losers I had last week are still losers this week. I've got an old receiver, a young receiver, and a whole football team. Which one you want?
I think the whole football team.
The Jets. The Jets are losers. Don't start anybody from the Jets on your fantasy team until they replace Zach Wilson. You can tell me that they were taking on the New England Patriots. You can tell me that they were playing in poor conditions. Zach Wilson is not a good quarterback. And I know he hit a great pass last week to Garrett Wilson. That's one throw in 8 quarters to Garrett Wilson. That was really good. You want to call it the 29-yarder a good one this week? You can. Fine. That's 2. I'm nervous about Wilson from Garrett Wilson, as long as this dude's the quarterback. And then they're still using 3 running backs. They're still using Michael Carter. Dalvin Cook's in the mix. Brees isn't getting freed. It's a mess. And the offensive line's beat up on top of it. So at bare minimum, until literally any other human being is the quarterback for the New York Jets, I'm not starting any Jets. They're all losers.
They are all losers. I'm not sure that I want to go all the way to I'm not starting Garrett Wilson in any matchup because he was really bad against the Patriots. Like, he still scored 9.8 fantasy points. They're still going to be throwing the ball a ton. They're playing the Chiefs next week. Garrett Wilson.
I do not care.
Yeah, the Chiefs.
Garrett Wilson will probably still be playing at least halfway through the fourth quarter.
They could play the Temple Owls. I don't care.
Heath, dude, that Chiefs secondary.
Okay, I would care if they played the Temple Owls. They
what?
A Chiefs secondary, man. Sneak.
No, it's really good, but the point of the thing was it's not like they're going to be able to play a 10-6 game next week. And what they'd like to do is just turtle up and throw 18 passes and not let their defense win games for them. That's not a realistic path. That's not a realistic path next week.
It's 2 weeks in a row that they can't run the ball.
All right. Well, listen, I understand. I understand that at the very least, Wilson's the only one we're considering starting right now. I'm sorry, Breece Hall managers. He's going to have to start performing better than this. He wasn't at the goal line late in the game when they scored their touchdown, but they gave it to their fullback, Nick Bawden. Of course, he scored. But Breece Hall, 12 carries for 18 yards. I forgot what he had last week, something like 4 carries for 6 yards. So those are some winners and losers for you. We have plenty more throughout the show. Unfortunately, we, of course, had injuries. So I'll get to those in a minute. Just want to tell you about our YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. We had about at the most at one time about 3,800 people watching this morning on Sunday morning. So this is the place to be. We have 3 YouTube only exclusive YouTube content live streams. Monday night, which we're going to go earlier. Schaefer, I'm sorry. I don't remember. What time are we going on Monday for our live stream? You can hop on or you can IM me, whatever you want to do.
Schaefer's going to show off the guns.
All right. It is 6:30 on Monday, 6:30, because we do have the second. We do have 2 Monday night games. So we'll go at 6:30 p.m., but usually Monday is going to be 7:30 p.m. Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Sunday, 11:30 a.m. We are answering so many starter sit questions, and it's an awesome time. So just be there on YouTube. And you can watch any of our podcasts on YouTube as well, and the Dynasty Show and the DFS Show, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. So to the news and notes, because the waiver wire is going to be pretty interesting. If you need a quarterback, Jameis Winston becomes available, maybe for a short term, hopefully short term. Derek Carr left with a shoulder injury. The word is it's not super bad, but we'll wait to see. Mahomes hurt his ankle, but he came back in. Justin Fields left, but he came back in. And then the big one, I guess, is Mike Williams, guys. And I think there's going to be some Quentin Johnston appeal, but it might be the wrong wide receiver for the Chargers, right? I mean, are we going to... Now, look, if you didn't see Josh Palmer's touchdown, it was a long touchdown. It went through the hands of a Vikings defender. It was a very lucky touchdown. But which Chargers wide receiver are you picking up?
Well, I don't think Quentin Johnston should be on the waiver wire. Like, regardless, he's a first-round rookie that's attached to Justin Herbert. You should be trying to hold on to him. So if he's on the waiver wire, I'm picking him up.
I would probably pick him up first, but the idea is that he makes an impact long-term. I think it might come down to how bad the Williams injury is. If he's out for the year, then Johnson would be the guy I would go after. If it's only going to be a week or two, then I might pivot to Palmer. Palmer didn't have a great game overall, but the stats at the end of the day are what matter. And he was targeted at least on that deep throw. And I think he's still got some of the confidence of Justin Herbert for now. And this team also, this is another team. They can't run the football worth a lick. They need Austin Eckler back in the worst way.
Well, they have the Raiders next week, and then they have a bye. So at the very least, your Eckler could be back in week 6 against Dallas after their bye. Hopefully he's back in week 4. But Palmer, I wouldn't say he was anywhere near a must start last year when Mike Williams was out.
We liked him as a flex.
He was pretty much a must roster guy last year. He scored 18.6, 7.4, 30.6, 10.6, and 13.0 fantasy points in 5 games without Mike Williams. 2 of them were without Keenan Allen as well. Also, Gus Edwards left, and Melvin Gordon could become someone that you have to get. I mean, it's a concussion, at least evaluated for a concussion for Gus Edwards. And then Gordon had all the carries after Edwards left. They get Cleveland next week.
He played 88% of their snaps in fourth quarter in OT.
I'm not. Yeah.
No, you shouldn't be excited.
I have to. You might have to. I'd say you want to.
You don't have to.
You don't.
You could just take a 0 at running back.
Well,
you could just start Michael Carter or Dalvin Cook.
Hey, deep leagues. Rashad Bateman left with an injury. I'm not sure his status. Jonathan Mingo left with a concussion. Carolina lost another linebacker, Frankie Louvu. He left around halftime. Yep. That's 2 big-time linebackers.
And the Lions lost another offensive lineman,
Matt Nelson. So that's a very strong unit that's been weakened for injury for both the Carolina linebackers and the Lions offensive line. Good news for Nick Chubb. Initial tests reveal only a torn MCL, so that should help his recovery. Running back Jamal Williams for the Saints is on IR. Jets left tackle Dwayne Brown is on IR. 3 teams played without 2 members of their secondary. There's 2 starters, the Bears, the Saints, and the Patriots. And whatever. Jets defensive tackle Quinnen Williams, one of the best in the business. He left with an injury. I wasn't sure if he came back, so I looked on Twitter, and I found Quinnen Williams and Dave Richard playing a game called Name That Fish. And it was very, very funny. So I encourage you all to watch it.
You never saw that one before?
I did, and I forgot about it, but I rediscovered it today.
We actually have one more Name That Fish game to come, and it's with Chris Jones of the Chiefs. And it's easily the best one of the bunch.
Oh, nice. Did Quinnen Williams come back in?
I just know that he didn't know who Magikarp was from Pokemon.
Minnesota cornerback Byron Murphy left.
I don't think he came back.
We'll talk about Alexander Madison later. He had a terrible sequence in this game, but turned it into a good game. Keenan Allen, if you didn't know this, he threw a touchdown to Mike Williams today. That was cool. Green Bay linebacker Devondre Campbell left, and cornerback Carrington Valentine left, and they rallied for a win, which maybe was Jameis's fault. I don't know. It was 17-0 when Carr left. Let's see. Denver right tackle Mike McGlinchey got hurt. Again, I think a lot of these guys returned. It's not so easy always for me to find that out, but I don't know if it matters. Okay. Waiver wire. I don't know if you guys have anyone else you want to bring up. A-Chain is obvious. Palmer and Quentin Johnson are obvious. I think next week, Andy Dalton against the Vikings.
100%. He looked so good today.
Adam
love Andy Dalton.
Adam Thielen, if he's still out there. So, and they get Detroit the following week. We'll see if Bryce Young's back for that. Any other waiver wire ads for you guys?
Tank Dell.
Tank Dell is absolutely one of them. Quinnen Williams did come back at him.
Okay. Tank Dell, yeah. All right, and Tank Dell is one of our winners. So let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get some winners and losers for you here on Fantasy Football Today. Here are Dave Richards' winners from Fantasy Week 3. Tank Dell, 56% rostered, 20% started, 145 yards and a touchdown. Alexander Madison, 20 carries for 93 yards, 5 catches for 32 yards. And the sequence that I was talking about earlier, he dropped a screen pass wide open. Then he caught a screen pass. And then on the next play, he fumbled at about the 5 or 10 yard line.
Looked like a fumble. Yeah.
I think it was a fumble, but
I think it was too. I think he got bailed out.
Yeah. They called it forward progress. So that's the second game in a row that he has had a fumble that didn't actually count as a fumble, but they stuck with him and he was a winner. And Sam Laporta, we already talked about. So let's talk Tank Dell and Alexander Madison, Dave.
So I spent my Saturday watching the Texans film from last week because I have no life. And what I liked about Tank Dell was that he had no hesitation in his route running. Whenever he was asked to go straight or run a slant or a post route, I should say, the dude was helping other receivers get open because he was drawing double teams against the Colts. The speed is evident. It looked like he was thinking a little bit when he had to make breaks in his routes and on shorter routes, but that's the kind of thing that you'll get better at, or you'll see receivers get better at as they play along the way. And Stroud's going to throw a lot this year. He even did in this game against Jacksonville. And Tank Dell's going to keep playing. Like, he's got a locked in role in this offense. Easy winner, boom bust flex at minimum, and someone that you could actually target as your top waiver wire claim if you're actually good at running back, or if A-Chain's already rostered in your league.
I mean, I think if you remove the names and the heights and just said third year wide receiver, or is it fourth year, who's really never been anything, third year wide receiver who's really never been anything, but had 2 outstanding games to start the season, rookie wide receiver who's led the team in targets each of the last 2 weeks. What are the odds that Tank Dell is just the best Texans wide receiver the rest of the year?
Well, I want to ask Dave a question on that because I also watched the Texans tape, or actually I rewatched the game on the condensed version.
Okay.
And no, I did watch the tape. So I watched the all 22, and I just was so blown away by Nico Collins. I just thought
sure,
he was like a freaking animal. So I want to know if you felt the same way, and then you can answer that. What are the odds that Tank Dell is just the best Texans receiver? And what Dell has working for him and what Nico has working against him is that Nico's route depth, his ADOT, it is pretty high. And even though he had 2 big games in a row, that profile does get a little volatile, So, but anyway, Dave, your thoughts?
I think Nico is still their best receiver. He can do a lot more than just run. Like right now, the best thing Tank can do is just outrun everybody. And so sometimes those types of receivers will have games like this, and sometimes they'll have bad games where they'll catch 4 passes and get 25 yards, something like that. Like Zay Flowers can run. He didn't really have that great of a game today. So it's just an example. He's going to be boom or bust from week to week. I feel like Nico can be more consistent. He just didn't have the same target volume that we saw him have in weeks 1 and 2.
I think Tank Dell's a better route runner within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage than Nico, isn't he?
I'm not ready to say that yet. Not ready to say that at all.
He's going to be targeted, I think, within yards.
He's a much better change of direction guy.
I think Nico can change directions pretty well.
All right, look,
there might come a time where Tank Dell is better than him. I just feel like he's thinking a little bit. Both guys deserve to be rostered. I think Nico should be started. Dell in 3 receiver leagues or as a flex. Yeah, you could start him. And that it not only is Tank a winner, but we're going to get close to the point where CJ Stroud could be someone that fantasy managers can get excited about, because he's going to keep putting up stats from game to game with these 2.
All right, so we haven't really talked about the Jaguars, and I'm putting it in my notes now as a bonus loser. We'll spend some time on the Jaguars, so Jaguars, whatever you want to call them if you want to be wrong.
It's Jaguars.
Of course, it's Jaguars. But Alexander Mattison is another winner for you. He was started in 81% of leagues, and he ended up with 125 total yards, 5 catches. So a temporary stay of execution for Alexander Mattison.
He's a winner in 2 ways. You can start him next week against Carolina and feel pretty good about it. And the window is open to trade him away before things get ugly again. And he has 15 carries. He doesn't even get that many when the Vikings are doing what they're doing. When he gets 12 touches and totals 35 yards, and then Cam Akers takes his job. So really great game. I thought he ran really hard. Definitely a different type of game for Madison than we've seen before. Certainly playing against the Chargers has a lot to do with it. The next the next few games for him, Carolina, and then Kansas City, and then Chicago. And then it gets a little bit worse after that. So there's 3 more games coming where you can get some numbers out of Madison. Hopefully he keeps the job. Hopefully they give him the ball, because that was the problem in weeks 1 and week 2. That he just wasn't getting the ball that much. And then they brought in Akers. We'll see what happens, but I think he deserves another start for fantasy managers next week.
Okay. And Sam Laporta was your last winner. So let's go to Heath's winners. Ken Walker with a huge game, almost 30 fantasy points. Zay Flowers, 10 targets, 8 catches, 48 yards. And Devon A-Chain, who we have discussed. Ken Walker, Heath.
Yeah, just looking like a complete running back, not just doing it running on which we knew we could make the big plays. And he is still have a little bit of the boom bust nature as a runner. That might be something that sticks. But beginning as involved as he was in the passing game and making big plays in the passing game, he looks like a must-start running back for as long as he can stay healthy.
All right, so Zay Flowers, what'd you think of this game? 8 catches, 48 yards on 10 targets.
I was very encouraged. I wasn't sure that the 10 targets were a possibility once Mark Andrews was back and fully into the offense. And so, like Dave said, it wasn't a great day in terms of efficiency. It's a pretty fine day in terms of fantasy production. But if he's going to see, like if the range is 5 to 10 targets with Mark Andrews, then he probably needs to be ranked as a number 2 wide receiver. This was 10 targets on, I believe, 31 pass attempts from Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, not much from Andrews today. And how about the Colts winning at the Ravens, the Cardinals beating the Cowboys, and the Texans beating the Jaguars today? Just football, man. Okay, so would you rather have Zay Flowers or Drake London rest of the season?
Oh, Zay Flowers.
I think you feel better with Flowers.
Zay Flowers or DJ Moore rest of season?
I might have said London last week if you had asked me that question.
Flowers.
You might have asked me that question last Sunday, and I would have said London.
Flowers over DJ Moore for Heath?
Dave? I don't mean to be reactionary with receivers. I'll still say DJ Moore.
All right, and I'll ask you about Hopkins in a bit because Hopkins is one of Dave's losers. But here are Heath's losers. Drake London, 2 catches for 31 yards on 6 targets. A.J. Dillon, we talked about, and DJ Moore, who ended up with decent stats, but that was after L'Jarius Sneed, I believe, left the game. It was a blowout and a garbage time touchdown for Moore, 41 yards and a touchdown on 6 targets. So Drake London and DJ Moore, Heath, do you view them similarly?
No. DJ Moore is still a number 3 wide receiver that you're hoping lucks into a touchdown on a weekly basis. I don't know how you could start Drake London with any confidence at all. Like, this was one of the few games all season where Desmond Ridder threw 38 passes and Drake London got 6 targets.
Yeah.
And the passes were awful. If any quarter, like, I'm sure Zach Wilson is probably worse than Desmond Ridder, but Desmond Ridder was terrible. It's a low pass volume offense. And when there is pass volume, it's not good pass volume. And you can't even count on London being the number 1 or apparently number 2 in targets on a given week. He was tied for 3rd.
Yeah. I've understood. It was a really bad day for the Falcons offense. Just mega bust offense. And who led? I think Kyle Pitts led the team in receiving, right? He had a terrible game.
He did. 41 yards.
Fantasy. Yeah.
All right. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about DJ Moore. Unfortunately, he could get Patrick Surtain next week, but
that's okay. I'm sure Justin Fields will scan the rest of the Broncos defense and make a bunch of accurate, wise decisions.
In fairness to Justin Fields, like, he threw an absolute dime about 40 yards downfield, dropped it right in the bucket for DJ Moore, and he whiffed on it. Or maybe he didn't whiff. Yes.
Yeah. You're not talking about the catch he made.
No,
okay, I'm talking about the other one.
Moore also had a 29-yard catch from that one counted.
Yeah.
That Moore, a perfect throw again to Moore that Moore caught with like one arm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a couple of great throws from Fields. Pete Prisco was mentioning how Fields doesn't seem to throw to the middle of the field. He's only throwing to the sideline. Why? And he thinks that that's a coaching decision. That they don't want him to put the ball in jeopardy throwing to the middle of the field.
Cole Kmet was wide open for a touchdown. He was wide open on the left side for another 20-yard gain, and Fields just never saw him. Like, he's just not. I don't know what the problem is, but I didn't think the throwing was actually the problem. It's just the processing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been consistent through the first 3 weeks of the season. And as Bears fans will tell you, it was pretty consistent all of last year too. Yeah. All the rushing that he did last year that gave him big fantasy points was covering up his problems as a thrower. And adding DJ Moore has not solved that issue in the least.
All right, let's go to Dave's losers. Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate on one of them. It's gonna be tough, but I'm gonna try. DeAndre Hopkins, Jahan Dotson, and the Jets until they bench Zach Wilson. All right, so the first two are Hopkins and Dotson. Dave, who you're more concerned about?
I'm more concerned about Hopkins than Dotson because it's now 2 of 3 games that Ryan Tannehill's looked terrible. Hopkins, in a game that they were trailing against Cleveland, had 1 second-half target. At halftime, it was 13-3. So the game wasn't lost by any stretch for Tennessee. You'd think that they'd want to use their prized number 1 receiver. And it was a tough matchup all the way around. The Browns defense is going to turn out to be one of the best in the league as long as they stay healthy. But it's now 2 of 3 games for Hopkins, actually 2 in a row since he hurt his ankle, where he just hasn't been himself, hasn't looked good. You look at the matchups moving forward. It's Cincinnati, it's Indy, it's Baltimore, and then a bye. There's really only one matchup that I look at and say might be good for Hopkins. But even that game against Indianapolis, like, what are you expecting? Like, maybe he gets you 15 or 16 PPR points. I don't know if he's ever getting back to the level that we thought he would be at, as long as he's catching passes from Ryan Tannehill or anybody else that's a quarterback.
I just think he's probably playing through a high ankle sprain, and it'll eventually get better. And like, I'm much more worried about Jahan Dotson.
So where's the devil advocating, Adam?
Well, first of all, I want to say hi to Mr. Start of the Week, Jamie Eisenberg, joining us. Hello, Jamie.
I don't know what you're talking about. I picked the wrong running back on his own team.
Oh, man. I said earlier, then we don't have to expand on this, but I was going to text you after A-Chain scored early and be like, are you kidding me? A-Chain? It all worked out. The devil's advocate is on DeAndre Hopkins. I don't see how – I don't really know what you could do to make a case for Jahan Dotson at this point. I mean, they throw to their tight ends too much and this and that. But, look, Hopkins, here's the devil's advocate. I take away week 2 because his snaps were pretty limited and he was hurt. Week 1 was against the Saints, and Marshawn Lattimore did a great job against him. Week 3 was against the Browns. And if you just look at the target share in weeks 1 and 3, and the percentage, like, how many yards did Tannehill throw for? Like 105 yards, 104 yards, and 48 of them were to Hopkins. So I think even if Tannehill's bad, he's not this bad. I still think you have a guy who's going to dominate targets. I can't speak on his health. That is obviously a concern. So the devil's advocate would be, if you want the rose-colored glasses on Hopkins, it's the 2 games that he was actually healthy. Brutal matchups. Tannehill was so bad in those games, but the target share is extremely encouraging. So there are better weeks coming. That's the devil's advocate.
Wouldn't you, though, if he has a good game, like, just be selling him as quickly as you can?
Yes. But I don't think he's incapable of having several good games. I don't think he's going to go off anybody.
Part of it is, look, Tannehill looks like he's done. And the offensive line is absolutely atrocious. It was Pro Football Focus had either 31 or 32 coming into the season if you buy into their rankings. And it's looked even worse. And Skoronski being out with the appendicitis hasn't exactly helped. They're not getting the benefit of the run game to even threaten anybody with the passing game. And yes, the matchups have been brutal the last 2 weeks or 2 of the 3 weeks. But my gosh, like, Tannehill looks terrible. And Hopkins, he never was a guy that, or I shouldn't say never, but the last couple of years, a guy who separates. Right. And so if he's not getting, quality targets, it's hard to trust him in a low volume passing attack. So I can't start him anytime soon.
Okay. I just wanted to bring up the devil's advocate. Thank you for putting him in his place. So let's talk about the Jaguars here. And this is very nervous for me because I have Trevor Lawrence, a lot of Trevor Lawrence. It's been rough. But
can we take off the kid gloves?
What's that?
Can we take off the kid gloves?
Yeah,
please.
Like, we've treated him a lot differently than we've treated most young quarterbacks when they've struggled. And I think the free passes, we need to be done with them.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're taking the kid gloves off for Lawrence. I thought it was for
yes. No. I was wanting you to take the kids' gloves off for Lawrence.
Hey, I'm a little concerned. I thought watching the Chiefs game last week, I basically gave a lot of credit to the Chiefs. I thought they just played great defense, but I don't know what to say about this. This was a Texans defense that was missing 2 starters in the secondary. I don't know, guys. I'm stumped. What are your thoughts, Dave?
I didn't watch enough of this game to give an informed detail.
There we go. I watched quite a bit of this
The
game.
bad pause.
What'd you
I don't know
think?
how bad the pressure was.
For what it's
I
worth,
went out again, didn't I?
yeah, 0 sacks in this game for either team.
Yeah, 0 sacks for Houston. So I don't know how much pressure they were getting him or getting.
Calvin
to
Ridley
him.
did not have a good game at all, and he got hurt.
He left
for a
at
little
one
bit.
point.
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, but he had multiple balls that hit him in the hands that did not turn into receptions. But I think one good month for Trevor Lawrence did a lot of work for him for 3 years, 2 years and 3 games.
Yeah, okay.
I would be
Wow.
buying low on Trevor Lawrence with the hope that they turn that Doug Peterson takes over play calling and does not allow. Why am I blanking on his
Press Taylor.
Press Taylor. I was going to say I knew it was Press something. I didn't want to say the wrong last name.
Press
It's awful. It's absolutely awful right now, and there's too much talent there. The offensive line's been a little bit of a mess. Cam Robinson not being there. Hopefully, when he comes back, that'll help some things. But I think that right now, the routes that they're running and the way that Lawrence is playing right now, there's certainly room to grow. Heath is not wrong. He's been given a little bit of a pass. Urban Meyer clearly was a disaster, and then we did see some improvements last year. So I don't want to necessarily overlook that because he did show some signs of life clearly as they made their playoff run. But the start of the season has been underwhelming. The Colts game was underwhelming, despite the fact that they did have some success with Ridley throwing the ball, but there was certainly some plays left on the table. And even in the Chiefs game, there was touchdown opportunities there that he just missed guys in the end zone. Ridley dropped 2 touchdowns in this game today. So we'll see how that changes some things moving forward for what his confidence is. I hope it's not going to crater him by any stretch, but I think that there could be a play calling change coming, and I think that would certainly help Trevor Lawrence's outlook.
Would you like to know what his off-target rate was against Houston?
Just tell us. Go for it.
7.5%, less than half of what it was last week.
Yeah. Do you know what his ADOT was? There's air yards per pass attempts.
7.3, the highest of the season.
Oh, so that's a good.
If Ridley dropped 2
7.3,
touchdowns, yeah.
But that's like that. That's
low.
the highest of the season. That's still Jimmy Garoppolo territory.
Right. So it's not a high enough number to make you go, oh wow, he's throwing the ball all over the place. But if he had touchdowns drop for the second week in a row, then that's not on him.
No,
I agree. He's a buy low.
Bigger problem than that, I think. All right, you're saying buy low. Jamie's saying buy low. Heath doesn't seem so sure. So let me ask you this: of the quarterbacks who were drafted behind him, other than Tua, how many are you taking ahead of Trevor Lawrence rest of season?
Cousins for sure.
Yes.
By a lot.
Yep.
Goff.
Ooh, I don't know.
I wouldn't take off over him.
Goff still has 8 more road games, 7 more road games.
You can make a case for Jordan Love.
I'm not doing that.
I would not make that case.
I was impressed with Love.
I was
a horrible
thoroughly impressed
game.
with Love the way he came back from that game.
Exactly.
What he's done so far this season without Christian Watson, 2 games without Bakhtiari, 2 games without Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
His Jenkins missing as well. Like, he's got a huge upside with those guys coming back if he's doing this already.
I was just more impressed with his resilience and,
Yes.
and his running ability in this game. Really, won them.
The running ability was much better than the throwing ability in this game.
I'm giving a lot of credit to the Saints, dude. They are suffocating on defense.
But there were several throws that just weren't even close.
He's also doing it again, throwing without his best receiver on the field.
16% off target rate.
I would say, Jamie, he's throwing without his 2 best receivers on the field. Like how good Aaron Jones can be for him. But
that's a great point.
All right. Anyway, how about Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence?
Lawrence.
Oh, wow. If he's thinking about this, he's really nervous about Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably still Lawrence, but
okay. All right. Let's take our last break here. And when we come back, we'll start getting into the games. What's our first game? I'll give you a little teaser. Our first game is going to be, I think Oh, no, it's Buffalo, Washington. I thought it was Patriots-Jets. All right.
That's a great
game. This is a great game. This is the game of the week. Buffalo, Washington, when we come back. All right, we're recapping all the games with our fantasy takes. And Heath, are you ready for the impromptu Believe It or Not?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Buffalo.
Let me get the schedule up so I know what games are coming next so I can prepare. But yes, I'm completely ready.
All right, Buffalo and the Commanders.
Wow. Believe it or not, the Washington Commanders are terrible. Like, the offense is bad.
No, I don't believe it.
You don't believe it.
I don't believe that they're bad.
Like, I'm terrified for Dotson. I don't know that he's going to be someone that's going to be rostered in 2 or 3 weeks. Things don't look good for Terry McLaurin.
They look better for him than they do Dotson. I think Howell trusts McLaurin more.
I think he trusts his tight ends a lot.
He does. They like to. It's
he likes to throw to
Kansas
everybody
City's
but the wide
offense,
receivers,
isn't it?
Except the personnel is the exact opposite of what Kansas
Okay,
City
well,
is.
okay, but like fundamentally, it's like Eric Bieniemy is like, okay, it worked throwing to a tight end in Kansas City, so let's try and make it work throwing to a tight end in Washington and leaning on their running back. So yes, obviously the talent isn't as good, but I just they're spreading the ball around a lot. To your point,
to go back to the Dolphins thing, the Commanders have broken 20. They scored 23 points in 2 games combined, and then they scored 35 against the Broncos, a team that just gave up 70.
The Dolphins are bad, is what you're saying.
No, no, I'm just saying, like, their only offensive life they've shown so far this season was against that defense that just gave up 70.
So how about should you drop McLaurin and or Dotson?
No,
not yet.
I don't want to.
Okay,
definitely not McLaurin.
Right.
And we'll keep in mind the game script because they obviously got crushed, but Brian Robinson only had 10 carries, so he might be someone that you only want to start when they're not necessarily going to win, but more likely to be competitive.
Competitive game, right?
On the Bills side of the ball, I think that Dave Davis, 35-yard touchdown catch was his only catch of the game. 4 targets on 32 pass attempts. So it's kind of the life of starting Gabe Davis, Jamie.
Yeah, he had a bad drop on one play that I saw, and I think he got called for a offensive pass interference or push off on another. It wasn't his best day, but this is going to be some weeks like this. It was a big defensive game for the Bills. Not like they really had to do a lot offensively here.
Believe it or not, James Cook is a must start in non-PPR.
Well, I think right now, anybody with his touches and that offense is a must start. Yes,
sure.
Last one on this. I'm not saying you drop him for another tight end, but if you have 2 tight ends and Dalton Kincaid's not your best one, you ready to drop him?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
He's droppable.
Okay, Heath, you've had time to prepare for Detroit 20, Atlanta 6.
Well, we already talked about him, but I think we need to say, believe it or not, Sam Laporta is a must-start tight end.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Top 6?
Yes.
Maybe.
Wait a sec. Let's think. You know who the top 3 are. Then you've got the Waller, Goddard, Kittle group, and Pitts. That's 7 right there. So
he's ahead of Pitts.
He's ahead of Goddard, depending on what happens tomorrow night.
Is he ahead of Kittle? Is he ahead of Waller?
How long is Brandon Ayuk out?
Right. If Ayuk's going to be back.
Ayuk's likely to play.
I think I heard somebody say on the radio driving home that he's the first tight end to start his career with 3 straight games of 5 or more catches.
Why can't that be Dalton Kincaid? I wonder. All right, yeah, so he's a must start. Whether he's top 5 or 6 or whatever is debatable, but he's a must start. How about, what the hell, Josh Reynolds?
Not even a target.
Started him everywhere.
It might have been he's more hurt than we were led on to believe.
Is it possible that AJ Terrell just shut him down?
No.
It can't be.
Well, you can't get shut down when you don't get any opportunities.
Well, he could have. I doubt he blanketed him because I remember, Jamie, you brought that up about a wide receiver, I think in week 1, and Terrell didn't follow him around. I can't imagine he followed.
It'd be a weird thing for him to do.
Josh,
we got to take out Josh Reynolds.
What's his snap share?
48 of 64 snaps. So he was out there. 75% of the snaps.
There was one other. You guys want to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs? You want to? Okay, we'll give Bijan Robinson a pass, but it's pretty obvious the Lions' run defense is a beast. But on the other side, Jahmyr Gibbs, he must have had a great second half because at one point I was looking at the first half, I was terrified. Ended up with a solid game, but 82 total yards, 18 touches. What are your thoughts going forward on Gibbs at Green Bay next week?
Must start running back.
He's a must start running back. I don't think we can keep ranking him as a top 15 guy in full PPR. 2 targets, that's disappointing.
It made me think, Jamie, what we heard last year when they were talking about Tony Pollard and limiting his touches. And if they felt like if they had to use him more in the running game, they weren't going to throw to him as much or vice versa. Fair. And they obviously treated Gibbs like the lead running back. He wasn't sharing hardly at all in the running game, and the targets disappeared. I wish they would flip that. Like, give Craig Reynolds 10 of those carries and throw the ball 7 times to Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, that's true. And then we also don't know if David Montgomery is coming back and what that will mean for, the role that Gibbs will play on top of that as well. But I mean, they were playing with a pretty decent lead in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the time to sell Gibbs and get 3rd or 4th round value for him?
Who would be giving that up unless you're just buying on the hope of what Gibbs is? Like,
right.
You're selling
But
low on
the
Gibbs.
idea is that someone out there thinks that Gibbs is going to break out. And if you have the opportunity to get a 3rd round player for Gibbs, do you take it?
I mean, look, would you trade right now in PPR? Would you trade Gibbs for Ridley?
If I was really stacked at running back, I think I would.
Would you trade Gibbs for Higgins, knowing that Burrow's injury could be?
If I was really stacked at running back, I think I would.
I'm just thinking of other players in the 3rd round. Jalen Waddle would trade.
Do you like Gibbs or David Montgomery better rest of season?
Oh, Gibbs.
I think I like Gibbs too. Like I understand the talent, and I think he can be really, really great. But we're not seeing the usage that we thought we'd see. And it makes me a little sour.
It's also, to be fair, the Falcons, I forget what they did in week 1. They really shut down A.J. Dillon last week, so you could say that's really a Dillon thing more so than that. This Falcons run defense might be better than we think.
This was I don't know. Miles Sanders saw him in week 1. He had a pretty decent game. Not a great game.
Well, I mean, he had, 13.8 positive points. He had a fumble in there, so it ended up being 11.8, but not a huge day.
In that same game, Chuba Hubbard had 9 carries for 60 yards.
Look at who the Falcons play.
Right, let's wrap up. Let's wrap that up. Sorry, guys. Miami, Denver. We talked enough about Miami. They scored 70 points.
Believe it or not, Cortland Sutton is the wide receiver 1 for the Broncos rest of the season.
He certainly was scripted that way because Sean Payton likes to script his first quarter, and it was all Cortland Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
And, the touchdown was a nice improv play between Wilson and Sutton where, he saw Wilson doing his usual scramble to his right, and, he cut it back toward the back of the end zone in that direction. He should have had 2 touchdowns. It was a bad pick play that led to an offensive pass interference call, not on him, that took away the second touchdown. Yep. So Sutton had a great performance, but Jerry Jeudy got going in the second half. Sean Payton must hate Russell Wilson. They were down, I think 40 at this point, maybe 30, but no way close to this being a competitive game. And he had Russell Wilson standing there at the end. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm trying to fix some things. We saw it in the preseason, I guess, too, where it was, the first preseason game, the offense looked so bad that they left Russell Wilson in there against like 3rd and 4th stringers.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on.
Get Marvin Mims the ball more.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we said, believe it or not, though. Is Cortland Sutton the best Broncos wide receiver rest of season?
No.
He'll definitely be the highest in my rankings next week. I'll still lean no, but
that gap will continue to get closer and closer between Sutton and Jeudy. In this instance, I'll bet on talent and say no.
Okay.
It's a good buy low opportunity on Jeudy.
There you go.
Jeudy was started in 29% of leagues. Sutton was started in 15% of leagues, and we covered the Dolphins extensively earlier. Houston 37, Jacksonville 17. We've actually gotten a decent amount on this game as well. Heath, what do you got for this?
I was going to do Tank Dell as the wide receiver 1 for the rest of the year, but I think Dave already voted no on that. So you should go sell Christian Kirk right now for whatever you can get.
It's pretty nice, just on Tank Dell, that you have 3 first-round wide receivers in the NFL draft of Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. And the 2 best rookie wide receivers through 3 weeks are Puka Nacua and Tank Dell.
Don't forget about Quentin Johnson there.
I'm gonna just reiterate the rules of the game, though. We're not really doing a great job today. Heath gives believe it or not. You guys are required to believe it or not.
Believe it or not, I'll make my own rules.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all.
No, you should.
Actually, I know you well enough. I believe that. Yeah, no, but let's try to answer the question here. But you should sell Christian Kirk for whatever you can get.
I don't believe it.
If you can get a lot for him, sure.
What do you guys think about
You're not
Dameon
gonna,
Pierce?
but
Dameon Pierce scored a touchdown today. Rah!
he also averaged 2.2 yards per carry, and I want to say the third week in a row he shared with 2 other running backs. Pretty considerable. Yeah, he played over 50% of the snaps. That's great. Singletary played 39%, Boone 7%. I don't think you can buy low on him as much anymore because he scored that touchdown. I still think his best days are ahead of him.
Oh, you could definitely buy low on him.
I was gonna
Do
say.
you
it's
think
the
someone
opposite.
might try and sell high on him because he scored a touchdown?
Yes, I was thinking this is the escape hatch. Like, you can get out now.
But I kind of want him if I can get him cheap. I don't think he's the problem.
No, it's not. It's not him. It's just it's his role, and I don't know. Okay, you get him cheap.
It'll change because they're not getting anything out of anybody else.
I mean, Devin Singletary had 41 yards on 9 carries today.
They might be frustrated with him and with Pierce, and they might want to make a switch at some point.
Would you rather have Devon A-Chain or Dameon Pierce rest of season?
I'm not. No,
Oh, boy.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
A-Chain.
A-Chain's playing behind a 31-year-old running back right now.
Yeah, but
And
don't
that
take that as you should drop Dameon Pierce or anything. But that's just a rest of season thing. Okay, all right. Colts 22, Ravens 19.
He's good call on Zach Moss.
Hey, yeah. I was gonna do a Zach Moss one, but he's the most. I think we should talk about it. But like, this is gonna be so interesting. Does Jonathan Taylor come back to the Colts, or does Jonathan Taylor just show that he's healthy and get dealt out of town? And if that happens, I mean, Zach Moss is found money. But I was gonna say, believe it or not, Michael Pittman is a top 20 wide receiver rest of season.
I don't believe that. He's close, but I don't
believe it in PPR.
I don't think Richardson's going to be as good for him as Minshew. Just
his best games come with Richardson.
Same with Moss, by the way.
Yeah, but it's just fewer pass attempts. I mean, without question, fewer pass attempts.
I will say, like, Zach
Moss
looked good.
He threw the ball very well in that first game.
Gardner Minshew
For what we expect of him.
No, I'm sorry. I just think that if you had to ask me who's going to put, if they both started rest of season, who's going to score? I'm sorry. If they both started rest of season in a weird scenario, who would throw for more yards and throw more passes? It would clearly, to me, be Minshew. I'm not trying. This is not me hating on Richardson.
No, I agree with that. This is you loving Gardner Minshew.
This is, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, no, it's just what it is. I mean, he's better for wide receivers than Richardson would be, I think.
And I think maybe this Colts team might be better than we expected.
Yes.
Their defense has been fantastic. Adam, you were talking about this from their run defense perspective, but I think across the board they've surprised us. Maybe as the season has gone on, secondary was awful week 1, struggled again week 2, better this week 3. Who knows how much of that was weather and just Lamar Jackson? But the run defense has been good, and offensive line has held up. Especially without Ryan Kelly out there. So give Shane Steichen some credit, man. They may steal this division. If Anthony Richardson turns out to be good with the way the Jags are struggling, the Titans are struggling, and who knows what to expect from the Texans moving forward. But both those teams are probably the 2 biggest surprises at 2-1.
Well, I said after that week 1 game, I think on this show on Sunday night, that if the Colts had Jonathan Taylor, they would have beat Jacksonville week 1. Remember how bad Deion Jackson was in that game? 14 yards on 13 carries and fumbled twice. They might have won that game if they'd had Zach Moss.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so let's talk about Zach Moss here. Are we seeing a sell high opportunity with the Rams, the Titans, the Jag? Well, forget about the schedule. There's some good, some bad. But are we buy, sell, hold Zach Moss?
Well, what are you supposed to do if you're acquiring him? Like, what would you give up for him? Because Jonathan Taylor might come back in 2 weeks and it's over for Zach Moss. So it's not going to give up anything.
So interesting, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's the if.
It's not. You can't give up anything significant for Zach Moss because he could become an ornament on your bench by week 5.
Or he could be the starter for the Colts for the rest of the season. I mean, we just don't know.
This is gambling.
Yep.
Right. Like, who are you willing to bet? What player?
I would bet my worst player on my bench. That's what I would do.
Would you turn Nico Collins into Zach Moss right now?
No, he's not the worst player on my bench.
So then let me ask.
Nobody's taking the worst player on your bench for Zach Moss. I mean,
right, which is why you're stuck.
If
you've
you're
got
the
Zach
Austin
Moss,
Eckler
enjoy
manager,
the ride for at least one.
If you're the Eckler manager, if you're the Aaron Jones manager, if you're the Saquon Barkley manager, guys that we don't know that are guaranteed to play next week, and
you know where you could trade him? You could trade Zach Moss to the guy that's got Jonathan Taylor on their bench.
Yeah.
And you'll get the most for him there.
Okay, so timeout. Sorry to go all Saved by the Bell on you there. If Zach Moss were the running back for the Colts for the rest of the season.
Zach Morris. Good job.
Yeah, I didn't say Zach Morris today.
No, but you said Saved by the Bell.
All right, good.
Hey, what's going on here?
If Zach Moss were the running back for the Colts rest of the season, how would you value him?
Top 20 running back at minimum.
Well, Heath gave a great stat today. Every time he's gotten to work, he's been good. I don't remember exactly what it is, Heath. If you have
it's now 8 of 10 games with 14 touches or more.
And what is in the result?
And efficient on top of it. He's a good pass catcher. The only thing you have to worry about is him getting hurt, which is pretty common for him. That's followed him from college.
All right, let's talk about that game of the week. The Chargers 28 and the Vikings 24. It was a little hairy there for a while, but I think it game of the week. It worked.
I mean, one of the most all-time stupid decisions I've ever seen a coach make.
The 4th and 1.
First time he's done it. He's done that before, right? I remember flipping out about that on Twitter of him going for it deep in his own territory in a stupid situation on 4th and 1 and turning it over on downs. And this is Brandon Staley. He just hates punting. But anyway, Heath, what's our believe it or not?
Believe it or not, Alexander Mattison did enough to hold on to the starting job this week.
Believe it, but it's for like 1 or 2 more weeks.
I believe it too.
I don't understand I'm sorry. I'm a little unclear about your stance, Dave. You think Cam Akers is coming to take that job?
It's going to happen eventually.
Why such an inevitability about that?
Because I don't think Alexander Madison's that good, and I don't think he's going to get 25 touches very often in this offense.
You think Cam Akers is good?
I think he might be. I don't know if he's that much better than Alexander Madison, but if they're splitting reps, there isn't enough to go around. This is a team that loves to throw the ball. Cousins had 50 throws on top of Madison having 25 touches. They ran a bazillion plays.
All right, but I think if you had said they're going to be splitting in 3 weeks, that'd be one thing. You're kind of making it sound like Akers is just going to take over the starting job. Is that how you feel?
I think it could happen.
Okay.
Cam Akers, 22 for 29. The last time.
Cam Akers, last 4 games of 2022 without a good quarterback. Look, it's not a good situation for either one of them. If you've got Madison, you can either write him out for the next couple of weeks and hope that he does well. Maybe I'll look silly and he'll be a top 12 running back the rest of the season.
And I think the Jordan Addison explosion is right around the corner.
Yeah.
He almost had a touchdown in this game.
Yeah, I think he got off to a slow start in this game, and he really came back strong. Oh, Jefferson got hurt. Did we talk about that?
Cramps.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was.
Drop certainly helped Jordan Addison.
Yes. Somebody, I didn't remember who it was. Heath reads a tweet and doesn't say who it was from. Said that he was suffering from cramps instead of cramps. And it was fantastic.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and throw a sell high on Kirk Cousins.
It's interesting.
Why?
Well, he's just throwing
the ball.
Traded. He's throwing the ball too much. I can't imagine it's going to be this volume. Like, he's going to be among the leaders like he was last year, but this is outrageous. And he's probably your second quarterback. He might be your second quarterback.
Well, you might have thought he was your second quarterback.
One of the craziest things that I've seen is for a guy that's, as smart as he is in what this is now 21 games or the playoff game, 22 games in this system in his own building. He's trying to quiet the crowd to get a play call inside the 10-yard. Like, you don't know a play to call?
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I forget it. I take it back. I don't think he's going to be 30 points every week, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But New England at the Jets.
I think he's got a shot at it because that's all Minnesota wants to do is throw.
He doesn't have a shot at 30 points a week. That's Mahomes.
I think he has a shot at top 5. He's going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback the rest of the season, though. I do think he has a shot at that.
I do too. So don't sell high. Okay, New England. Okay, the only reason I said sell high is this might be the peak of his value, Kirk Cousins, because he's probably QB1, right? And
yeah,
and you might have another quarterback that you like, but
That's fair.
I'm
And
not
so
sure.
in that situation, if you're 1-2 and Cousins is one of 2 quarterbacks you have, yeah, you could look into selling him.
Go find the Fields owner.
Go
New England
find
at
exactly.
Jets. What do we got, Heath? We can skip this game. No, listen.
No, we've got that's believe it or not, Ezekiel Elliott, Zombie Zeke, is actually a problem for Ramondre.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to believe that, even a little bit.
You don't, or you don't want to?
I don't want to.
I don't.
Stevenson played 65% of the snaps. He had the majority of the 13 of 19 on 3rd and 4th down. They were not inside the 10 at all.
Two of his 4 targets he dropped. Is that right?
I don't know.
I saw one of them.
I'm
I'm gonna blame the rain. Okay, we're gonna give him
Yeah, look, they're not going to be playing a JV team like they played this week every week, and the weather was a problem.
Right, but does that really? I mean, does either of those things really matter for Stevenson? He should have been able to do better than 19 carries.
Yes, he had a bad game, but I don't think Zeke is the problem.
Zeke had 16 carries. He had 7.
Stevenson had 20 touches.
He also barely played in the second half in week 2.
Okay. Hunter Henry did exactly what I thought Hunter Henry was going to do as soon as I started him. 2 catches for 17 yards. And we talked about the Jets. Green Bay 18, New Orleans 17.
I don't think we need to talk about Jordan Love anymore. Believe it or not, the Saints are in trouble if they have to start Jameis Winston because he's not any good anymore.
I'm excited for Jameis.
I'm excited if we get Jameis from 3 years ago.
Or hey, last year he made 3 starts. He threw for 269, 236, and 353 yards.
Oh, I don't care about Jameis. I just think it's going to be fun for the receivers.
The final numbers were not so bad on Jameis, 10 of 16 for 101 yards. But like I said, it was 17-0 when he came in the game, and it was 18-0 Green Bay after he came in the game.
We made the joke watching the game that Jack Capitorto, one of our producers on CBS Sports HQ, he said if Jameis just takes kneels the rest of the game, the Saints win.
Well, is it? I mean, when you're talking about receivers and going to their backups and how their fantasy value takes a hit, this feels like one of the least severe drop-offs, for Olave and Michael Thomas. Would you agree
think
with
it's a
that?
wash because, I mean, Derek Carr, as much as we knock him, he has thrown the ball down the field well. And I think that's, what Jameis's strength is. He just doesn't care, so it's like, okay, I'm just going to wing it down the field. So Olave should be fine. Michael Thomas had 3 very good games last year or 2.5, before he got hurt with Jameis. Rashid Shaheed is somebody that'll probably be on and off a lot of fantasy rosters most weeks anyway, no matter who the quarterback is. But he might benefit with some of those, deep shots as well. I don't really worry about the receivers here. So, Jameis will have, 280, 2 and 2, penciled in 282 and 3. Like that's the kind of quarterback he's going to be. Plus, we have the wild card of Alvin Kamara coming back next week. So they have their best running game to date should happen starting in week 4 and beyond.
I'm going to ask you about the Packers because we talk about the Commanders spreading the ball around. But, last week I was obsessed with Romeo Doubs, telling everybody to start Romeo Doubs. He had a terrible game. This week, I doubt I recommended Romeo Doubs to anyone. He had 75 yards and a touchdown, 73 yards and a touchdown, and 12 targets. But that's kind of the vibe I'm getting right now from the Packers. It's Wicks and it's Reed and it's Dobbs and it's Musgrave and there's no one consistent. Does that change, Heath, when Watson and Jones come back hopefully next week?
I don't think that it will. No, I think if all those guys are healthy, I would guess Jaden Reed's going to see his targets go down when Watson shows up. But Dobbs, I still think is going to play a pretty similar role. Jones is going to have more targets than the running backs had in this game. And so I think it's probably still a little bit of a mess on a week-to-week basis.
All right, let's go a little faster here. We've got 4 games left. Cleveland 27 and Tennessee 3.
Do we want to go that far? Believe it or not, Derrick Henry is maybe not going to be a must-start running back all season.
Who are you
not ready to believe it?
How many weeks would it take?
Look, man, this offensive line is a disaster.
Yeah.
Tannehill is a disaster. But it's still, I mean, he's had some bad quarterbacks and bad offensive lines before and still come through. But at 29, can he still be that alien and that Superman that we've counted on him for. So it would probably take a 3-week stretch like this to, completely punt on him. And you got to have a really loaded situation. But it's ugly in these streets right now for Derrick Henry.
Well, Tajay Spears played 53% of the snaps with Ryan Tannehill, including 10 of 13 on 3rd and 4th downs. He's been that guy on 3rd and 4th downs. I'm starting to get a little worried about Henry, but he overcame a bad offensive line last year to end up averaging 19 fantasy points a game.
So if you had Derrick Henry and you took Ken Walker in round 5 and you picked up Zach Moss off the waiver wire, you're definitely starting Henry next week.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Walker better than him. But hold on, this is important here. First of all, you said took 53% of the stats with Ryan Tannehill. When Tannehill played the whole game, didn't he?
No, I think Malik Willis came in at the end.
I didn't see any stats for Willis, but he didn't throw a pass anyway. But Derrick Henry had 13.9 and 18.5 points in the first 2 games. And they got slaughtered, and he had a terrible game here. But it's not like he's off to a bad start this season. He had 2 good fantasy games.
I guess week 1 is a stretch as far as good fantasy games, but it was acceptable.
Yeah.
And week 2 was the Chargers.
Look, your return on investment has been bad so far. So there could be, for people that believed in Derrick Henry, a buy low opportunity if you wanted to try and go get him. But he's struggling right now again behind this line with, as Dave alluded to whatever degree another running back is taking him off the field for some stretches, which we haven't seen for the majority of his tenure there. And this offensive line is not getting better. I don't think Tannehill's getting better. The matchups might get a little bit better, but it's hard to necessarily say that, at 29, he's going to be consistent. I'm curious to see what the Cincinnati run defense looks like on Monday, because that's their next opponent. So they'll be getting them on a short week, which is always good for a physical running back. So, there should be a bounce back potentially. But if he does, I mean, look, if he's under 50 yards rushing and doesn't score, and the work in the passing game is disappearing, then you can't start him.
All right, let's talk about Jerome Ford. Let's talk about Jerome Ford.
Sell high?
Yeah, 10. Sorry, he's laughing at sort of something else. 10 carries for 18 yards and a touchdown. Wait, did he have a rushing touchdown, or am I making that up?
Yeah, 2 touchdowns.
And a receiving touchdown. Okay, but 1.8 yards per carry against the Titans. I don't even know. What do you guys think about Jerome Ford?
I think this was as good as it gets against this defense. That the fantasy points, so forget about how it happened, but the fact that he still, I don't know what the snap count was if you guys have that, but what the playing time was slanted in his favor, I'm sure, and the touches were certainly slanted in his favor. So that's the positive. But look, we're telling you all week long, pick him up, expect a tough stretch. If he comes out of it doing the things that the coaches want him to do, and he's still the guy and Kareem Hunt's not, you're going to be thrilled about that. So for I picked him up. I don't know, either I had him or I picked him up in a few leagues. The leagues where I needed him, I started him. The leagues where I didn't, I benched him, and I'm thrilled that I started him. Just because I got this type of production from him. So, look, we just got finished talking about Derrick Henry. Heath made the Zach Moss comparison. In a month from now, Jerome Ford might be better than Derrick Henry because he's producing like 80% of Nick Chubb. You're going to be thrilled to death about that.
Okay, so buy, sell, hold on Jerome Ford.
Depends on how sophisticated your league is, probably. But if you can sell off the touchdowns, I would.
Yes, I agree. He played 60% of the snaps, had almost all the high value touches. And Kareem Hunt was in on the first series. I don't know if Hunt, I guess, gets a pass. It's his first game with the team, so he wasn't really in good shape. But I don't know if he's going to end up mattering. And the schedule is going to get a little easier for Cleveland after this break.
Seattle 37, Arizona 27. Sound like you were throwing a commercial break there, Dave. Seattle 37, Arizona 27.
Seattle played Carolina,
Seattle beat
which
Carolina.
is important because believe it or not, it's about the Panthers, and it would have been awkward if they weren't a part of this game. Believe it or not, go sell your Panthers. If you can, again, this is a league sophistication thing, but if you can get something for Adam Thielen off this monster game, go sell him. He's not going to get to play but maybe one more game with Andy Dalton. And if you can sell Miles Sanders off the touchdown, go do it.
I agree with half of that. I'm not selling Miles Sanders. I mean, He's an RB2. He's going to have some good games. He's going to have some bad games. He's an RB2. He gets a ton of work. And if they score rushing touchdowns, it's probably going to be him.
It was this week. He's got Minnesota next week.
Well, how you guys feel?
I think that's when you sell high on Sanders.
Why do you have to
Is
sell
that a
him?
good matchup?
Against the
I don't know.
Vikings?
Well, I mean, 2 of their 3 games, they've been really good against running backs. One was DeAndre Swift.
And they're going to get off the bus down 14. They're not going to stop them.
I mean, with Sanders,
If that's how you feel, and then this is one of the easier matchups that he faces, then when would you sell high on Sanders if you're not going to?
why do you have to
You're
sell
going
high?
to at some point.
You don't have to sell high on everyone. We could just hold the guy. I mean, he's a reliable running back. He's averaging 4 catches a game.
I don't know. I don't think he's looked that great, and he's still losing 35% of the snaps each week to Chuba. He's not playing on many third downs.
Who's buying high on him though? That's the thing. I mean,
People who are desperate for
Wasn't
running backs
good
would be
enough.
the only people.
all right, okay. Yeah, I think we all agree if you can sell Thielen, you do it. And then on the other side,
Although, man, it would be very tempting to say if I could stack a second one of those, I've got Andy Dalton in a revenge game against the Vikings. He has another 100-yard game with a touchdown. Then you might actually be able to sell him for something.
how about JSN 79% roster, drop or hold?
Oh, he's droppable in redraft leagues.
I have a lot of bad flashbacks. rookie number 1 wide receivers being dropped, but
How many
I'm
of them
trying to
play on
hold.
offenses like this with 2 other guys like this?
I have a question. When did Andy Dalton play for the Vikings? Did I miss that?
Thielen played for the Vikings.
Thielen played for
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was like, what?
I did have to think about that for a second because the way he said it said
Yeah.
Andy Dalton in a revenge game.
Okay, thank you. It wasn't
I think
just-
he meant to say Andy Dalton and a revenge game. So
Okay.
having Andy Dalton and the revenge game factor.
I,
But it
I
came- it
think
came
if
out a
we
little
go to the transcription,
Yeah.
it was stated correctly, but we'll have to check it out.
Andy Dalton in a revenge game.
We were talking about Adam Thielen with Andy Dalton in a revenge game.
But
I don't
the
think
way you
anybody-
phrased it though was a little awkward.
I think everyone was confused. I can speak for everyone. Everyone was confused. All right. The final word, JSN. Would you drop? You'd have to drop him for a guy like A-Chain. Would
Tank Dell,
you?
easy.
How about Josh Reynolds coming off this stinker? Would you rather have JSN or Reynolds?
JSN because you still have
Right.
3 more weeks until Jameson comes back.
Rather stash him.
Kansas City 41, Chicago 10.
Believe it or not, Roshan Johnson is the best fantasy running back for the Bears rest of season.
Believe it.
Believe it.
Believe it or not, it doesn't really matter.
Believe it.
Don't believe it. At some point, it'll matter.
This team stinks.
All right. Let's see. What else from this game? How about
Good
the
game for Pacheco.
Yeah, how about the run? I was about to say.
Great game for Pacheco.
Most of Clyde's work was in the fourth quarter. He had 9 carries in the fourth quarter. They ended up with the same amount of carries, but Pacheco scored. Clyde scored a 1-yard touchdown run. That was annoying. McKinnon caught 2 touchdowns. Any major takeaways for the future for this game from the Chiefs?
Rashee Rice tackled at the 1-yard line on 2 different plays when he was playing with Patrick Mahomes. I think his role is growing. I'm encouraged. He's a definite rookie stash.
And also led to a terrible Blaine Gabbert interception.
What are you doing with Kadarius Toney?
Rice's fault.
Drop him.
Sky Moore too?
Depends what you need, but yeah, they're in the conversation.
Yeah. I don't know when you'll ever feel good starting either of those guys. Bye weeks, maybe? Maybe?
Arizona 28, Dallas 16.
Unbelievable.
Before you do your believe it or not, can we drop Brandon Cooks?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Even
I
though
dropped him.
7 targets is nice, but yes.
How many survivor pools were busted this week between the Ravens, the Cardinals? I'm sorry, the Ravens, the Cowboys, and the Jaguars.
Yeah, crazy. All right, Heath, what do you got?
I mean, this game was so dumb. James Conner is a top 12 running back rest of the season. When healthy.
You can't win healthy. That's part of the calculus here, right? Can you
Yeah.
value him like a top 12 running back?
I
He
think you
feels
have
like a sell high candidate because you're getting such great production from him. But if you can get something great in return, I mean, we see this. It's hard to find running backs at this point, so you got to be in a great situation to be able to trade him. But I mean, at some point, if he stays healthy, you'll regret it. But hasn't stayed healthy.
He's had this track record of putting up decent numbers, decent to great numbers, I should say, even when his team sucks, even when his quarterback sucks, even in games where he's gotten blown out. Here's a game they won by double digits, and he continues to put up numbers.
And I think the key distinction is, you said when they get blown out, they lost 2 games by 7 points before this game.
They've been in every game. They've led in the second half of every game this year.
Now they're getting blown out next week.
Yeah, San Francisco's next week. So
right,
there's you might lose your window. Like if you could turn James Conner into Austin Eckler or Saquon Barkley, I think you have to do it.
What about Derrick Henry?
What about Jonathan Taylor?
I would not do it for either of those 2 guys.
I don't think I would either.
Oh, wow. You wouldn't trade Conner for Henry. Wow. I would trade Conner for Henry, but I understand because each of the last 2 years.
Oh, no. I would rather have the other guys.
You'd rather have who?
Henry or Taylor.
Jamie, you would not? Who'd you rather
I
have?
don't think so.
You'd rather have Conner? I mean, I get it. Each of the last 2 years, he's been top 12 per game, so with Arizona. So he deserves a lot of credit.
And he's averaging over 4 yards per carry every game.
Yeah, he's really playing very well. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Great show. And you know what? Give me, Jamie, give me 10 seconds on Marquise Brown, who's got about 60 yards and a touchdown 2 straight games.
Josh Dobbs has played better than I expected him to play. And, Kyler Murray was on the sidelines, big smiles on his face. Like we said, they're in these games, and he might say, you know what? If we win a few, that takes us out of the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. So maybe I want to come back and play and keep my job. So I would not be surprised if that changes some things if he's able to go. He's posting pictures of his quads. So in terms of Marquise Brown, some improved quarterback play will certainly help. But look, Brown has been productive in the last 2 games, and he's going to be in the third receiver conversation, I think, on a weekly basis.
Have a great day, everybody. We will talk to you tomorrow with Beyond the Box Score.
Yom Tov, y'all.